Hey, Larken Rose here. This is a firearm. It is capable of killing people. I know a lot of people who own firearms that are capable of killing people. Now, of the many, many people I know personally who have firearms, they all understand how serious that is and the responsibility that's inherently involved in possessing a firearm and especially in carrying one. And I often carry one. There's a big argument about whether it's better to carry concealed or carry openly. I usually carry concealed. In Arizona, you don't even need a permit to carry concealed or open, which is nice. So, I know tons of people who regularly carry firearms, and they are very aware of the responsibility involved in doing that. And almost all of them could probably recite the basic rules of having a firearm. Like, you do not put your finger on the trigger unless you're ready to fire. You do not point a gun at anybody unless you're ready to kill them, and it's justified to kill them. You always keep aware of everything behind your target, whether your target's shooting or like in an actual combat situation, and be aware of all the things and all the people that may be back there that might get hit by your bullet by accident, and be responsible about that. And there's a whole bunch of rules, and most gun owners know that stuff. Now, most cops, we'll start there, are irresponsibly cowardly jackass morons who will point a loaded gun at somebody because they're not sure what that person is up to. If you endanger someone's life and point a loaded gun at them just because you're not sure what they're up to, you shouldn't have a gun. You're an irresponsible child. And that's a hell of a lot of cops, and you can see it in a hell of a lot of videos where they're just like, hey, and these unstable jackasses threatening to murder people who aren't armed and often aren't doing anything, and the cops are just, well, I'm not sure. Now, gun owners know there's different levels of threat and different responses. So you may pull a gun and have it aimed at the ground with your finger off the trigger because there's something it hasn't risen all the way to obviously a threat to your life, but it's pretty dang suspicious or someone approaching or something. But you're still not endangering them because you're not pointing it at them and your finger's off the trigger. You're just that much closer to being able to do something drastic if something drastic is justified and necessary. Cops just ignore that constantly and point loaded guns at people all over the place. You can see literally hundreds of videos of that. But even that is a very low level of irresponsibility compared to what this video is about. This video is about what I see over and over again from the troops that we're supposed to support. The level of irresponsibility, you can't even call it irresponsibility. Like, it's so bad, it's negligent homicide a lot of the time. And there's a million different examples of that. One is, okay, here's the crew following orders with this big, like, howitzer. It's like, okay, you follow this, you load up the shell, you bring it over there, you check the settings, you pull the thing, boom. You send this huge thing hurtling, however many gazillion yards over that way to blow up a building in the middle of a town. You're an evil piece of shit if you do that. And if you say, well, there were bad guys over there, you're still an evil piece of shit. Imagine in any other setting, any other person doing that. Well, I have this thing, it lofts a bomb like a quarter mile, half mile that way, but there's a really bad guy over in that part of town. So there's also other people in that part of town. That's not okay. You're a psycho. That's negligent homicide, and you're a fucking maniac. And the fact that there might also be bad people over there doesn't come anywhere near justifying that. Like, you try to compare that with, keep your finger off the trigger when you're holding a gun. No, just lob bombs into a town because somebody told you to. Now, consider the layers of irresponsibility there that is inherent in the way military does things. Okay, so somebody in intelligence, we don't know who, we don't know what their information was, we don't even know if they existed or somebody's just making it up, says, oh, this building over here has bad people in it. Well, did you, wander around inside and see if there are other people in there too? Did you actually check? Are you at all reliable? Or are you just typing in information or saying stuff and then, well, it's not my responsibility. I just said some stuff. And then that information, whether it's flawed or made up or accurate or anything in between, trickles its way up to some power-happy twit who says, then I will give the command to blow that building up. Really? So you know everybody who's in that building. You've, personally confirmed that only really, really bad people deserving of death are in that building, and in the surrounding areas likely to get hit with debris if you're blowing up a building. Because, again, by analogy, if I owned a house in a city and I went through and made sure nobody's in there, I'm going to blow up my own house. Well, yeah, I have the right to blow up my own house. Don't know why I would, but I have the right to do that. But if it's going to throw shrapnel in the entire neighborhood, that's not okay. That's endangering innocent people too. The military does that all the time. They don't even mention collateral damage. Yeah, collateral damage is the euphemism for we're a bunch of evil shits who don't give a fuck if we kill and maim innocent people. So you get this whole chain of command. Now you get the guy who got this intelligence information, which may be totally unreliable, and he sure as hell isn't checking it himself. But he gives the order, blow that building up based on something that somebody else told me. Again, imagine the analogy. Somebody you don't stinking know says, there's bad people and only bad people in that building down the street. And you go, okay, well, based on you asserting that, I'm going to blow that building up. I'm not going to check. I'm not going to see who's inside first. I'm not going to, question the guy who told me that, who the hell are you? And how do you know that? And, were you there? And why the hell should I trust you? And even if I did think you were probably right, in an action involving taking human life, it's not good enough to say, well, that guy said so. That's not good enough. You're an evil piece of shit if you murder human beings because somebody you don't know told you they were bad. So he gives the order and it goes down the chain. And in between, there can be people like, well, that's the order. I'm just passing it on. You can't blame me. I didn't think anything. I'm in the military. I don't know how to think. He just told me the order, and I told the guy below me the order. You can't blame me at all. I didn't do anything. I'm just a parrot. He said words, and I said them to the guy below me. So you get the all the way uninvolved, spineless parrots in between passing the order down. Then you get the people at the bottom who are blowing up the building or gunning down this or dropping a bomb on, some vehicle driving down the road. Do they ever personally check? No. The system is designed to inflict deadly violence in a way that nobody in the whole chain of command takes personal responsibility for the outcome. Nobody. People are blowing up, including little women and children getting blown to smithereens, not even killed all the time, but maimed and destroyed. And the guy at the top is, well, I was just going on the intelligence, and that's what I tactically do. You cowardly piece of shit. Then there's the cowardly shits below him who just passed the order on. He said to blow up the building, so I guess blow up the building. You didn't bother to check anything. You're just a parrot. And then the people at the bottom, well, we have to follow orders, so go through the actions of doing the thing that makes the building blow up. Whether it's a howitzer or calling in an airstrike or whatever it is. We mindlessly did the thing to kill people without the slightest fucking idea who it is we're killing, who all might be in the building, who all might be endangered by what we're doing, who aren't even in the building, but are walking by or something like that. And so when the story comes out that, oh, gee whiz, you like murdered a bunch of innocent people and like there weren't even any of the bad guys in there, first of all. If you think that government saying that somebody is a bad guy means they must be a bad guy, you're kind of an idiot. Like, yes, there are bad people doing nasty things other than government, and some of them should even be killed because they're doing things that nasty. But if you will take it on faith that the U.S. government saying somebody is bad means they're bad and deserve to die, you're just a moron. And whether you're a moron in uniform or a moron not in uniform, you're still a stinking moron if you think that the U.S. government saying we want that person dead means that that person must be deserving of death. So you have a situation where a bunch of innocent people get blown up. And everybody denies responsibility. Well, how convenient a structure that the ruling class has set up where nobody in the entire operation takes responsibility. Because the guys at the bottom who actually made it happen, who blew up the building and killed people, say, well, we were just following orders. It wasn't our job to determine who was in there and whether the target was there and whether people were safe. We're just following orders. You can't blame us. We're just mindless drones. We don't have like a conscience or a moral code or a brain. We're just robots who do whatever we're programmed to do. So you can't blame us for the people that we just blew up, for the innocent people that we just annihilated. We're not to blame. The guy above us told us to. And the guy above them was like, well, I was just passing on the order from the guy above me. And then the guy above him is like, well, I was going on the intelligence. And then the intelligence people are like, well, that was just based on what we know and what we had from our spies in the field. So you get literally murder, and everybody involved says, well, it wasn't my fault. I'm not to blame. How convenient that you can commit murder on a daily basis, over and over again, stretching out for years and decades, and nobody involved takes responsibility for it. Nobody thinks that they're the one morally culpable for killing innocent people. That level of irresponsibility and cowardice is, if you did it in your day-to-day life, like with a handgun or a bomb, like, well, I was pretty sure there was a bad guy in that building, so I blew it up, like that apartment building. It's like, there's other people living there, or there were, and you murdered them. That makes you a murderer. You get to be put in a cage for the rest of your life, or maybe executed for mass murder. That is what should happen to somebody who does that. And if he wears a uniform and says, I was just following orders, that doesn't change morality. That is still what should happen to him. So you can be as offended as you want, but there are a crap ton of servicemen and women who've been in combat for the U.S. military who deserve to be killed because they've committed murder, or they've been accomplices in murder, or at best, they've committed negligent homicide. Well, we weren't trying to murder those people, but we threw a bomb over there. Oh, really? So I was just throwing bombs around. I didn't know if there was anybody in there. I wasn't trying to kill those people. But, so you can't call me a murderer. I was just throwing bombs around randomly, and I happened to kill innocent people. That's literally the best defense a lot of them have is, well, we didn't know who was there. Well, gee whiz, maybe if the default for average gun owners is don't point a gun at somebody unless you know it's justified to kill them, maybe the default for people in the military is don't do things that you know are going to kill people unless you know who it is and know it's actually justified and necessary. And never, ever, ever does any military abide by that most basic moral principle when it comes to the use of deadly force. All the gun owners I know abide by it, like very strictly, and they're very, very aware of the rules and very aware of, like, you do not endanger innocence. You go to great lengths to make sure you don't ever point a gun at somebody unless using deadly force is justified. You don't shoot someone as a warning. You shoot someone only if it's justified to kill them and you're intending to kill them. and you make damn sure your bullets aren't flying around somewhere else that's going to hurt an innocent person. It is so basic to being a moral human being, and nobody in combat abides by anything close to that. So, damn you for your service. You're a bunch of immoral, violent idiots harming innocents. And if you say, well, but I don't care what they're doing. That would be just as stupid as me saying, well, yeah, I hurled a bomb over there and blew up that building and killed some innocent people, but you should hear what a couple of the guys in that building had done before. Does it matter? Like, that may be a reason to knock them off if they've done bad enough things. It's not a reason to kill a bunch of innocent people. Well, we had no other choice. Imagine a normal person using that excuse. Well, it wouldn't be safe for me to, go into the apartment building and find the particular guys and capture or kill them. That wouldn't be safe. So, for my safety, I blew up the entire apartment building. Yeah, that makes you an evil, murderous piece of shit. And there's a hell of a lot of combat vets who were acting as evil, murderous pieces of shit. Almost never does a government military actually abide by, respecting property and abiding by the non-aggression principle. They point out the evils of what they're up against so that you'll ignore the evils of what they are and what they do. Well, this group over there, they've done this horrible, terrible thing, which, half the time they're making it up or exaggerating it. But there are horrible people doing horrible things. And then governments exaggerate that even more. Them doing horrible things doesn't throw out the window the basic principles of how to be a moral human being, which includes make sure you're not the one maiming or killing innocent people. And the U.S. military doesn't do that. No government military does that. And the entire chain is designed so that everybody can pretend that they're not responsible for the violent, murderous outcome. And it's just despicable. And I watch, you see the war movies and all this, or just the news. Like, to me, that's just one of the most ridiculous things, seeing like a team handling a howitzer. It's like they're not even under fire because they're like miles away. I mean, the huge long-range guns. And they're firing into a city. It's like, you murderous psychos. It doesn't make any stinking difference if, there are bad people also in there somewhere. You're a fucking lunatic. And if the people in that city kill you before you get a chance to randomly hurl bombs in their city, good for them. Because if they kill you without randomly endangering people around you, they are 1,000 times more moral than you are hurling bombs into their city on the excuse of, there's some bad people in there, we think. Yeah, we're going to be murdering a bunch of innocent people, but it's a small price to pay to... You evil pieces of shit. And to watch the American people worshiping the troops when you can see the video over and over again in 1,000 different ways of the irresponsibility and immorality of what the troops do whenever they're in combat. Always. Every time they're in combat, they're doing it. Every stinking time. Now, there is such a thing if they want to do a surgical strike, like, okay, we're like sending in the SEALs or something to knock off some particular guy that's actually bad enough. Now, once again, I wouldn't nearly trust the U.S. government when they say, this person's really bad. It's like, yeah, what you probably mean is that person isn't serving your interests. And it has nothing to do with whether they've actually harmed innocents or not. It's just, that person wouldn't act as our puppet, so we're going to knock him off. But supposing for a second there's actually an evil person who's done evil things, and it's to the point that it's justified to knock him off, yeah, every once in a blue moon, they'll like call in the SEALs and have an assassination. And I will end with this, because in case this wasn't controversial enough. People often ask, well, in a stateless society without a ruling class, and you don't believe in authority anymore, how would you defend against scary foreign armies invading and stuff? Well, step one is, because there's not authority, nobody would ever use the excuse of, Well, I blew up that building with people in it. I didn't know who it was, but I blew up that building full of people because I was told to. Because in a society that recognizes that the belief in authority is insane, they would all recognize that as 100% insane and immoral. That's not okay. I did something insane because some other person told me to. Yeah, in a stateless society, everyone would recognize that you're completely bonkers and you're guilty of at least negligent homicide, if not worse. So you wouldn't get that form of defense, which is what every government military does. So every time there's a war between countries, there's irresponsible, murderous psychos on both sides doing immoral things, and their excuse is, well, some of the people on the other side are bad and they're immoral and doing immoral things. Yeah, you mean exactly like you? So there wouldn't be that if people didn't believe in authority. They would feel justified in resisting, like, oh, here come the actual people with guns barging onto our property to attack us. We feel justified in defending, not by blowing up their hometown, but by shooting the actual aggressors to make them stop. But one step better, I'll end with this. Let's see if this video gets taken down. The most efficient, cost-effective, moral defense against a free society being invaded by an army is assassination of the guy at the top. If the guy at the top said, we're going to come invade and take your resources, send somebody to kill him. Have a bake sale to raise money. Whoever knocks off the guy who's obviously, like, openly admitting that he's sending in the invasion, kill him. Guess what the UN and all the governments do? They agree ahead of time, we're not going to target the guy at the top who's giving the orders for all this crap to happen. Even during wartime, we'll have our pawns slaughter your pawns and lots of innocents on both sides will die. But we certainly won't target the people at the top because we're the people at the top. And we, the power-happy assholes of the world, sometimes we're buddies with the other assholes of the world. So we agree, no, we don't assassinate people, even though that is the most moral thing you could possibly do. Who is the guy at the top of this thing invading us? Violently invading us and attacking us and killing people, kill him. And as it happens, after that happens, there's this thing called the deterrent effect, where if there's a free space and one country says, we're going to come take your resources, bunk, the guy at the top just died. Guess what happens when the next tyrant thinks of taking over? He isn't thinking, our army could defeat their people. He's thinking, their people are going to send somebody to knock my head off, regardless of what happens with the armies. And that is the best defense there is. A defense that is actually targeted exclusively at the actual people involved in the aggression. Not we're going to blow up the countryside, not we're going to murder all the people who you claim the right to rule, not we're going to send our pawns after your pawns. We're going to use defensive force only against the actual aggressors, which is something that no government military ever does. Which is why, no, being a hired thug of the U.S. military or any other military does not earn you respect. You're not a good guy. If you go along with the way that government militaries always function, you're the bad guy. And in a lot of cases, if the people of the lands where you're throwing bombs around and randomly firing guns all over the place, if they shoot you, they were in the right and you were in the wrong. And the little American flag on your shoulder makes no fucking difference to right and wrong.